Walksnail.
Yeah, Walksnail has announced, and of course, we're catching up a little bit here, but Walksnail has announced their Goggles X pre-order, which is still a pre-order, we'll point out. And they do not appear to have shipped any to end users that are not
None?
influencers or located in Asia. Yes, that's my
Oh,
understanding.
interesting. I thought that I saw somebody getting their goggles, and I thought they had started shipping them. No, still
I believe, yeah, I believe
on
those are either people
pre-order, huh?
related to the company or they're doing some small release in Asia. But yeah, I don't believe anyone in the U.S. or the EU has
Okay.
received these.
Yeah,
So
they've said, I don't know if this is on this page or something, but they said that it has something to do with the production of their optics, that they can only, like, there's a QC issue or something.
yeah, I'll say,
What to be expected.
unfortunately, they put there's like a frequently asked questions section on that page, and they put on that page it'll be 15 days, right? I don't know if that was like an accident or that just wasn't an intention, but if you say when will it be shipped, yeah,
Yeah.
each order will be shipped within 15 days, which is
We
not
know
true.
that's not
So
true.
yeah.
They did a Facebook post where they're like, "Hey, sorry guys, we're going to be shipping them
Um,
slowly."
Yeah, so if you pull up our other link that we have, we
Mm-hmm.
got a response from RDQ because I know some people ordered them through RDQ instead of through CADX directly. So it's for some
Mm-hmm.
idea of a date, this person got a response from RDQ support sometime in the last week, and they said it should be 3 to 5 weeks is when they're expecting them in. So
Oy.
quite a time there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like RDQ is usually pretty on the ball about that stuff. If they say 3 to 5 weeks, it's
Yeah,
probably accurate. But excuse me.
yeah, I would definitely expect it to be accurate.
Yeah. So as you maybe, oh, you can't see because this is the split screen. I actually have been working on my review of these goggles all day, today and yesterday. Better late than never, I guess, is the moral of the story. I was out of town and away from my studio at the time that they released, and I've never felt more. I don't know about never, but I definitely felt very disappointed that I couldn't be part of it. Such a big product release. It is what it is. I have to say, I think that the question of whether people should buy these goggles, it's a very interesting question because in some ways they bring a few things to the table, like HDMI input and AV input, that users of the V1 goggles might have wanted and didn't get. But there's always something about it that kind of spoils it. So, for example, the HDMI input. The HDMI input can take 90 FPS. If you have a set of HD0 goggles and you take the HDMI output from the HD0 goggles and put it in the HDMI input of the Walksnail goggles, you can do the 90 FPS camera at 90 FPS. Oh, that's very nice. It's very exciting. Except HD0, only the HD0 goggles will output that 90 FPS signal. So if you wanted to run the Walksnail goggles with an HD0 receiver, you'd be limited to 60 FPS. Oh, oops. Almost, but not quite. The analog input. Great. It has analog input. No analog DVR. And it just feels like for all the things they gave you, there's always like a kind of a gotcha. And I think that might be a spoiler for some people.
Yeah, I think the main. So it seems to me like the main premise behind these, or one of the main gimmicks here, is that hey, we did a bunch of improvements to the goggle design, and we've also got a slot on the top, so you can pop it open and pull the module out, and then swap a module. When we release a new module, you won't have to buy a whole new set of goggles. You'll be able to use these goggles. And you'll be able to use our new hardware, and then you'll be able to work with our new system at the best speeds and stuff, right?
Yeah. And they've what's the number? Because they've talked on Facebook and they were like, this new system is it like 5x the range? It's like 20 kilometers, I think is what they're saying. So they're saying they've got this new system coming. What do you know the number off the top of your head?
Yeah, that's right. Achieve a breakthrough in flight distance expected to reach 20 kilometers. Yeah.
What is their current system reach according to them?
I think 4. I think they used the same old number that DJI used because DJI always advertised that 4-kilometer value.
So, there's definitely going to be people who say, aha, oh, this new thing is coming. Whoa, 20 kilometers. Yes, I will buy them and I will get, but that's I understand that, but.
Yeah, I'll say I didn't pull but I do believe there's marketing material that states somewhere around a 20 kilometer for the new Artisan chipset, and we know the Artisan chipset is what's in the Walksnail goggles currently. So it does seem like hey, yeah, they're just moving to the new chip, they're upgrading the baseband stuff, and then it'll just be capable of doing more bandwidth in the air or more distance because of the way it handles it and all those kind of
When
things.
you say Artisan, it's Artosyn, Artisan.
That's correct.
And they
Yes.
make the radio chip that runs like is it the whole SoC? Is it like the encoder and the radio chip and so forth?
I think it's the whole deal, because when you get the packages, it you can sort of out of the box do some of these modes that it has. So yeah, I think the whole kind of package works together like that. But it's basically a ASIC, right?
Yeah. And what's happening now is that Walksnail is buying, I don't know how factual this is, but we believe that Walksnail is buying these Artisan chips, and the Artisan chip does the heavy lifting, basically. And then Walksnail puts those on this radio receiver, and they sort of write some firmware for it and tweak some knobs and dials to prioritize latency and so forth. But that's how they are making their system. What you're saying is that this new system is that Artisan has released a new generation or will release a new generation of their chip. It's not that Walksnail is like inventing something. They're just like, hey, we're getting...
And that's why... Yeah, I mean, and again, it's similar to DJI, right? Like DJI comes out with the O3 and it's new, we got to use a new chip, or we got to have a new additional part of the system.
100%.
And then, so we sort of can interface with the old stuff, but not as well. And we're missing some features and that sort of thing. So I would hope, I don't know what the Artisan chipset compatibility looks like, but I would hope that there is going to be some backwards compat, but maybe it won't be like full, or maybe you'll lose features or things like that, right?
Yeah, I have to say, knowing that this new system that they're developing is just a new Artisan chip coming out and they're integrating it actually gives me some encouragement. Because when Caddx says, or Walksnail, same thing, when they say a new feature is coming and it will come on this day, historically they haven't hit that day. It usually comes, but it usually comes later. But if Artisan's the one who's actually doing the sort of heavy lifting and all they have to do is integrate it, sorry about that, then they may actually deliver the performance that they're promising, and they may actually come close to hitting their deadline, and that's actually kind of exciting.
Yeah, I don't know what the release timeline is on the actual Artisan chip. They may be using marketing material but not have chip in hand. I don't know much of that stuff, right? Yeah. And that's why they might be confident about the distance, because they're using the same advertised distance they used before, right, of the chipset,
right?
Not what they're... Yeah.
Anyway. So right now the system, under some circumstances, doesn't get 4 kilometers. Sometimes it gets more than 4 kilometers. This 20-kilometer range is nominal. But the question would be, should somebody who was tempted by this new system buy the Goggles X today, should this sway your decision making? Because you can get the V1 Avatar goggles now for $380. They're about $80 cheaper than these the Goggles X. That's not nothing.
Are the original? I'm just wondering. Did Walksnail go down on their goggles as well?
I know Rotor Riot did, or Fat Shark did.
Yeah. Oh, they don't stock them anymore. That's right. They went out of stock. They only stock the new goggle. So yeah, the only goggle you can still get is that Fat Shark goggle, the Dominator HD. And like you said, that's been dropped to $380.
Now, are you saying? Sorry, I was out of the loop there. Are you saying Walksnail doesn't sell the original Avatar at all? They only sell the Goggles X?
Correct. That's actually, yeah. If you'll remember, that was how the rumor started.
Oh, I
that
do
were actually
remember.
Bringing out a new goggle because they stopped stocking it. So it seems like they stopped producing it. However, we don't know if Fat Shark's got a back stock or if they're still producing it. So, yeah.
No comment. Let's put it this way. When somebody does a fire sale pricing, it usually doesn't mean we're making a bunch of these and we just need to move them. It usually means concur. We made a shitload of these and they're sitting in a warehouse and we're terrified we won't be able to sell them.
Yes.
So, okay. So I got to say, though, Dominator's it's a solid goggle. Like, if you're in the Walksnail system, Fat Shark can make a goggle. It's a solid goggle. Whereas on some level, like, I have this goggle and like I have sample size of 1, right? I don't think Fat Shark was involved in the production of this goggle. That's just a gut check. I don't have any proof. And I know that Caddx hasn't made a goggle before. I don't know who. Did they partner with somebody like SkyZone to make this goggle for them? Don't know. But a goggle is the kind of thing where it's easy to screw up and make a dumb mistake or have a QC issue. Until there are 500 or 2,000 of these goggles in customers' hands for a few months, I will still sort of be a little hesitant on it.
I would say specifically the idea that they had to make a post to extend the timelines and weren't able to give specific targets, yet they were able to ship a set of goggles to reviewers, makes me feel like processes change or misunderstanding or there's something happened to trigger like, hey, we need to slow down, make sure these are correct, make sure we can produce the right amounts, get them shipped out. So I would say it's a good sign that they're not just like shoving them out the door when it's their first product like this.
I agree.
But yeah, hopefully everything will work out and these will be a quality goggle. But like you said, it's hard because there's a little bit of pro and con going on. Yeah. And that sort of leads into our next story. I don't know how much more you want to go here.
Hold on. There's one more thing. There's one more sort of thing I think we should keep in mind about these goggles, and that is this. If you're waiting for this new system to come out in August, then what does this mean for Fat Shark? Because Fat Shark worked with Walksnail to develop the Dominator/Avatar goggle, and they were like partners. And now Caddx/Walksnail seems to be saying, yeah, we don't need you anymore, is my read. So
I still don't know what the partnership really was. We got so many mixed signals from that side of the fence that I feel like Fat Shark's involvement could have been as little as we'll slap our name and brand on it and sort of give some design insights into a goggle versus we made the entire everything but the hardware and software that goes in it. We made all the design decisions and shells. We produce it in the factory.
No, I think I feel pretty strongly that Walksnail developed the operating system. That because we've seen Walksnail continue to develop the operating system, and that's never been Fat Shark's core competency. Fat Shark's core competency is designing and manufacturing goggles. And these goggles don't have Fat Shark's design language on them. They don't feel like a Fat Shark goggle. That freaking SD card slot isn't between your eyes, for example. I could be wrong. I accept that. If I am wrong, and I find out I'm wrong, I'll own it. So where I'm going with this, though, Blunty, is if this goggle doesn't involve Fat Shark in any way, then once Fat Shark sells through the Dominator goggles that they've got, that's the end for them. And I don't think they're going to let that happen. Go ahead.
No, finish that thought, because that's very confusing.
I don't think they're going to let that happen. If I'm Fat Shark, and I can see the writing on the wall, I think I would also be intending to release my own goggles based on the new Walksnail system, assuming that Walksnail will sell them the boards.
Interesting. I feel like from an outside perspective, Fat Shark is like, this did not work. I'm glad we weren't in this more heavily, and let's get the heck out of this and figure out something else to do.
Then what do they have? They have nothing.
I mean,
I'm not trying to sound like argumentative.
Okay, but what do they have now? They have a shell.
They have a goggle.
That's all they did.
They have a goggle that they can sell.
2 years is they've made a goggle that probably how much
Two
profit
goggles.
did they actually make?
Recon HD. Don't forget the Recon HD.
Oh, that's fair. I think if you try to convince me that there was life in Fat Shark before, I don't see life there. So to me, there's nothing lost here, right? Like they're getting out at 380 for a reason, right? Like that's what I would say.
But I don't think so. Here, the question is Fat Shark going out of business? And I don't think they are. I think if you look at Red Cat, what did Red Cat buy them for? I think it was $12 million. I can't remember.
Been too long.
It's been too long. I don't think Red Cat is going to close up shop on Fat Shark because I don't know if Red Cat is ready to give up on them. Greg French may retire.
Remember that's all in an interim. Like they're working on a deal, and Unusual Machines has already IPO'd. And
Not wrong.
Shot their IPO target down half value, but they're still trying to IPO Unusual Machines, and Unusual Machines will absorb Fat Shark and Rotor Riot.
Yes.
So I don't know, but I also don't know that anything in limbo like that that's getting traded back and forth between this company and the other company, and like who didn't have any actual involvement in the system and only made the design for a goggle shell, and like it just feels like they've been so outside of it anyway, and then you're gonna say like now they're in the middle of this thing where another company's trying to IPO. Like,
you're not wrong.
Maybe they're going to make another goggle, but where's the money going to come from, and how is it supported, and what's that going to look like on the books while you try to produce a new product and you're trying to IPO in another company? And like, it's very weird, right?
I agree.
It feels weird.
I agree. I here's what I would say is, if you're thinking about buying the Goggles X and your major motivator is this new system that is supposed to come in August, then don't move today. Both because, number one, the new system may not even be here in 2024. You never know how long it's going to take. And number two, I still think Fat Shark is a wild card here. And Fat Shark has surprised me in the past and gone, hey, we've got this new goggle we made that no one ever heard of until we've released it. And it just doesn't feel like they're ready to go gently into that good night. And I think they may surprise us. So we'll see.
Fair enough.
Let's move on. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me say this.
Okay.
The only way I could see that possible is if this goggle is Fat Shark, and we just haven't found out yet somehow.
I don't think it is, because if this goggle is Fat Shark, then Fat Shark will just sell this goggle.
Right,
like
that's
they
what
did
I'm
with the
saying.
Dominator.
That's the only reason I buy it, because then otherwise, CADX has again beat them to market, has all their branding on the thing, still sells all the VTXs and cameras and components for the system. Like, it just feels very unbusiness savvy to try to clench on and try to build something that's possibly better, right?
Yeah.
Like
Fat Shark, but tell me that exact unbusiness savvy weirdness is not exactly what we have seen from Fat Shark in the last 4 years.
Yeah. Also,
right?
Also, maybe there's some world in there where the money people can spin it by creating a new product and then building fake value out of it for the investors or something, right? We've seen Red Cat do some funky stuff. So.
Yeah. It's possible that Fat Shark could identify the things that people want from a goggle and do a better job than Walksnail.
That would be amazing, but wow.
Yeah. Come on, Fat Shark.
That feels like a moonshot.
I know, but moonshots are the most fun. All right.
Sure.
Moving on.
We need to make a bingo card. We need to have a bingo card. It's like
Fat Shark, ever since the V1 DJI FPV goggle came out and the digital FPV became a thing, Fat Shark has been on freaking life support. I don't know if financially they have, but they were all about analog. And then once digital became a thing, they were like, all right, what do we got? We got nothing. And then they've been scrambling it's amazing they're still around this long, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
All right.
One more piece of that, though.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just put a thing together in my head. Didn't Rotor Riot just move locations?
Yes. New, bigger warehouse.
Okay, that cost money, and that was a move up, and they're also in the IPO for unusual machines.
So
we can't make an assumption about spending and stuff,
I think people really underestimate how well Rotor Riot does in terms of their customer sales and in terms of their just as a business. I think that Rotor Riot, people look at Rotor Riot, and I say this, I want to be clear that I'm not saying this as someone with insider knowledge. I'm friends with the guys at Rotor Riot, but from a business perspective, I don't sit in on meetings. I don't know what's going on. But I have the feeling that Rotor Riot sells a lot more bind and flies than people realize. And people look at Rotor Riot's store and they see that it's not like a Race Day Quads or a Get FPV in terms of being just a giant general purpose store, and they go, well, those guys they can't be making any money. And I think they're making way more money than people think. And the fact that they're moving to a much bigger warehouse, you're right, that costs money. They must be doing pretty well for themselves.
Yeah. And it just means that they're not afraid to spend money in the IPO, right? They're not worried about spending or upsizing or anything in this, somehow they got financing for that building or there's money somewhere, right? There's obviously cash flow ability. So I don't think it doesn't seem as out of the realm to launch another goggle because you need to build value somehow. Because like you said, otherwise what is Fat Shark? Because if you sell all your Dominator HDs, you literally have nothing.
They have nothing. They have literally nothing. Once those Dominator HDs sell through, Fat Shark has nothing. What do they have? They have the ability to design goggles. That's it. That's what they bring to the table. And they don't have the ability to... Well, anyway, we're beating the horse. We're beating a dead horse. Let's move on.